It's a rare opportunity, and the divers want to get a closer look, but the cuttlefish are initially wary of us. At last, they grudgingly accept the diver's presence, and our cameras are able to get a much closer look. Now that the long journey to the spawning ground is complete, the cuttlefish prepares to respond to their next genetic instruction, a dramatic struggle between the males for territory. But when the struggle is over, the winner will have not only the best territory, but he'll also get another reward. The most powerful female will become his mate. In our next shot, you'll see a male cuttlefish getting ready for the mating ritual. When another male approaches him, his coloring will suddenly change into stripes, signaling that he's ready to do battle. Keep your eye on the right side of the screen. As if following a set of carefully prescribed rules, the males will cautiously approach each other, skin bristling in the stripes of challenge. Like formal duelers, they'll touch fins and eye each other at the beginning of each round. It's decided. The older male has proved his strength and skill. The younger accepts his defeat and departs, at least for this year. The female cuttlefish has waited patiently for the outcome. Her only concern, the life she will soon carry. The victorious male approaches. His eye glares at us as he passes, as if objecting to our presence, but his attention is soon back on his mate. The actual mating process takes at least 3 hours, and often as long as 5 hours. It's during this time, when they are joined as one, that both the male and female cuttlefish are completely vulnerable. The tentacles that usually protect them and the whole center of their existence are wrapped in the embrace of the mating kiss. Most female fish deposit their eggs, and the male fertilizes them afterwards. But the cuttlefish comes much later on the evolutionary timetable, and like the octopus, the male has 1 or 2 special tentacles that carry encapsulated sperm. Somehow, while the two are locked together, the sperm are passed to the female cuttlefish so that the eggs can be fertilized inside her. Also, if you notice, the color of their bodies has changed drastically. The female on the left looks apathetic with half-closed eyes, while the male keeps a sharp watch to protect the female from other males and enemies. Exhausted after 4 hours of mating, they finally part. The female is so tired, she's barely able to fold her tentacles in order to protect herself. It takes her some time before she can maneuver them back into their normal position. Now she must find somewhere to lay her eggs because they're ready. There are from 30 to 50 eggs for her to place, insurance that enough will survive to continue the species. Her task has just begun. As the female cuttlefish gets ready to lay her eggs, notice how her cheeks seem to be flushing. This is caused by a surge of chemicals and hormones throughout her body as she begins to look for the safest place to deposit her eggs. As we watch the female, she appears to have a long snout, but don't be fooled. That's not really a nose. It's just the shape that is created as the tentacles come together to form a point. The eggs are carried inside, and by pushing her tentacles into the coral, she'll be able to deposit them very gently. In order to get her eggs into the coral nest, they are brought forward from the funnel-shaped organ under her throat until they reach the inside of her tentacle, and then she eases them out. This female has a lot of work ahead of her. She has more than 50 eggs that have to be fertilized, and she must find a safe place to deposit each one of them. The work is exhausting, and it goes on for many hours. The male cuttlefish remains nearby in case she needs protection, and his stripes reappear when another male threatens. But this challenge ends without a fight, as if the challenger knew that he was too late, that the mating is over. That bulge in her tentacles is an egg. Her tentacles are like the fingers of a hand reverently holding a precious object. She keeps searching for only the safest places so that the egg will not be washed away by the ocean current or be eaten by other fish. Here we have a good look at the funnel of the cuttlefish. It looks like some sort of a vacuum scoop, but the opposite is true. The cuttlefish ejects water through the funnel, water that enters under the mantle collar and is squeezed by powerful body muscles. The funnel controls their direction of movement and balance. It's a jet-like nozzle for quick movement, and depending on how it's turned, it can propel the cuttlefish swiftly in any direction. It is through the funnel that the ink is expelled in case of danger, in the same way as the squid and octopi spurt ink. It's believed that the ink is either a smokescreen or a confusing target for pursuing predators. The funnel could be considered the most important organ of the cuttlefish because it's also the passage through which the eggs travel to her arms. Once the eggs have been laid, female cuttlefish is no longer driven by the migratory urge. Now she can return to her home. She doesn't remain with the eggs for the 7 weeks it takes them to hatch, but goes to her deep sea habitat to resume her normal life. Protected by the coral until hatching, the baby cuttlefish becomes a part of the continuing cycle of the sea. The coral reef abounds in creatures struggling for life, eating and being eaten. The weak or the unfortunate will succumb to larger fish, and more than half of all the babies hatched will die before they reach their new homes in the depths of the sea. Even then, the struggle will not be over, for only the stronger of the species will dominate. After the 7 weeks of incubation were over, our divers returned to the spawning ground in time to see the baby cuttlefish almost ready to break out of their eggs. It's an amazing moment. The eggshells are so transparent you can actually see the babies inside getting ready to come out. Although it looks fragile, the eggshells make a bond strong enough to hold these thumbnail-sized versions of their parents until they've learned to control their muscles and gained the power to break through the shell. At last, the moment of birth has arrived. Just watch as the first baby breaks free. Right from birth, they are miniature replicas of their giant parents. Like a little baby taking its first awkward step, these baby cuttlefish struggle against the currents to begin their new life. The divers transferred some of the eggs to an undersea tank for a better look at the hatching. If they manage to survive and are successful in making the long journey to their new home, these babies are likely to live for 2 to 3 years. The lifespan of the other members of the cephalopod family is usually only about 1 year, which ends after they've spawned. These baby cuttlefish, in the same way as their parents answered the mystical call of nature, will grow up and will one day instinctively return to the same coral reef in order to spawn children of their own. It's amazing to consider the precision with which nature has endowed these marvelous creatures. Their genes carry all the specific information required to perform their part in the life cycle. They know instinctively exactly where to get to, what to do, and how to do it. The same instinctive urge which drives the cuttlefish to spawn also equips the newly hatched cuttlefish with full instructions for survival. They are simply tiny versions of their parents. As our camera continues to observe the babies, we get a chance to see one of these incredible instincts in action. If you watch carefully, you'll see the speed and accuracy with which a little baby's tentacles shoot out to make a tasty meal of an unsuspecting shrimp. And here comes dinner. Let's look again as we slow down the action. At the moment the cuttlefish breaks through its shell, it has entered the harsh but natural cycle of life under the sea. In a short span of time, we have witnessed the cuttlefish's life cycle, starting with the mysterious return from the deep sea through the rituals of mating and of spawning, until finally we have watched the eggs hatch and new life evolve, completing the circle of its existence. The struggle has just begun for this little cuttlefish. Survival in this ocean world relies on speed, agility, and a great deal of luck. In our next shot, watch very carefully as he moves away into the center of the screen, and you'll see a black spot appear. This is the ink that a cuttlefish spouts in defense, but we'd like to think that it's his way of saying goodbye as he swims forward to find his new ocean world, and he begins to learn what it really means to struggle beneath the sea.